at nta.ng/live and check out some of our social media handles displayed on your screen for details. We begin with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as he says Nigeria has no reason being poor as a country richly endowed with natural resources and hardworking people. The president, who received a delegation of leaders from Rivers State earlier today at the State House, says he is ready to reverse the trend and build a better Nigeria. Correspondent Musbah Wahab tells us more. In our subsequent bulletin, meanwhile, a solution to the long-standing farmer-herder conflict seems to be near, as the federal government says it is set to acquire land for ranching across the country. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said this as he received a report and blueprint from committee members of the National Conference on Livestock Reforms and Mitigation of Associated Conflicts in Nigeria. Again, let's join State House correspondent Musbah Wahab for the details.
Years of commotion within a supposed same sector of agriculture, conflict of interest, and power tussle over the rights to the land by farmers and rights of way for the herders. Thousands of human and animal lives as well as landed properties have been the victims of hostilities between pastoralists and the locals. But this seems to be the moment Nigerians have been waiting for.
And today, the solution is here. Ranching is the answer. We can create a huge economy out of the situation that we set up for us. I will be talking to all the governors. The federal government is ready to acquire land for ranches and livestock development. We pay for it. You pay for the land if you don't want to give us free, if you don't want to participate.
Not only ready to provide the solution, but also to convert the enduring challenge to a source of fortune, as President Tinubu foresees a bright future for livestock development and its value chain in Nigeria.
Imagine you create this opportunity. Your vet doctors are busy, gainfully employed. The private sector, the education opportunity for the adults and the families, children, the medical care that will be established through that is a life-saving opportunity that we have. Imagine us providing cold storage facilities and employment all over. Imagine us being successful at this.
And having studied previous attempts, the failures and successes, the recommendations of the committee are both retrospective and forward-looking.
Primarily, the typical livestock herdsman is always in search of food and water for his animals. And you are aware that most of the cattle routes have been taken over either as a result of urbanization, encroachment or as a result of development. But the panacea is we need to migrate, transist from this migratory tendency to ranching, mini ranching that support system can address.
We recommended for the establishment of Ministry of Livestock and subsequent agencies so that various aspects of the recommendations will have appropriate institutions for implementation. We also recommend a source of funding, including international organizations, the private sector, the government itself, so many other things.
With these, the committee is set to transit from recommendation to implementation to coordinate the solutions alongside the Ministry of Agriculture. From the State House, Musbah and Wahab, NTA News.
While on the subject of agricultural and industrial linkages, Jonathan Omajili, our correspondent in Lokoja, Kogi State, explores the prospect of utilizing the large body of water resources in the state for good. He says, though excessive water body has evolved into both a burden and a looming threat to lives and property, the prospect for economic growth abounds where meticulous planning and strong political determination exist. Well, when it comes to the issue of flooding, especially flash flood across Nigeria, what easily registers is the intensity of rainfall over an extended duration. And if recent information from the central hub of the National Flood Early Warning Systems or the Federal Ministry of Environment is anything to go by, then some states may be on the verge of having these experiences. We have a couple of our reporters on standby live to give us update on anticipatory measures already in place in some of these flood-prone states. Now, Jonathan is in Lokoja and Adamu is in Jalingo. Both are joining me at this point. But we'll begin with Jonathan Omajili, whose report we saw minutes ago on how the state could make lemonade out of the flood lemon in Kogi State. Now, Jonathan, are you there? Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. A very wonderful evening to you. Wonderful
evening, Jonathan. It's good to see you. And some of your recent reports have anticipated the rising tide at the confluence of the river Niger and river Benue. And I wonder if you can confirm that concrete precautionary measures have been taken to circumvent the fatalities and perhaps wreckages associated with past flooding experiences in Lokoja, Kotonkalfi, and other parts of Kogi, to the flooding in Kogi. Let's get your views about that.
Okay, from some of the reports that you have mentioned, of course, you note that things are not looking pretty fine at the moment. And of course, the warnings keep coming, telling the people to prepare, especially those that are at the flood-prone areas, so that they can begin to move. Interestingly, they are beginning to move. As we often say, experience is the best teacher, and from the flooding of 2012 and that of 2022, they've come to the awareness that they don't really have to wait until the dying minute. That was a mistake a lot of them made last year. And of course, we must commend the state government for being proactive instead of being reactive. Because as I speak to you right now, we have jingles, announcements going on in the 3 major languages in Kogi State, warning the people and telling them to prepare. And of course, they are doing that rather than wait until the catastrophe strike before they leave. I think that was a mistake, but they are learning very fast. And should there be another flood this year, I'm sure that the people will be better prepared to manage the situation.
What's the water level right now? What is the, Jonathan, what is the water level just right now, yes?
Okay, I can't give you a specific number, but I can tell you that the water is rising very fast. I spoke with a professor from the Federal University, Lokoja, a few weeks ago. What he said is that the water is rising gradually, and is because, of course, of the release of water from Lago Dam. It's a gradual release. I think that's the word he used. He says it's a gradual release. So at the moment, I can't say exactly, but of course, it's rising very fast, and it's a source of concern to the people, and that's why a number of them are actually moving away from areas that are flood-prone.
Okay, and I'll take a report right now before I join Adamu in Jalingo. While on the subject of agriculture and industrial linkages, Jonathan Omajili, we just spoke with him in Kogi State, explores the prospect of utilizing the large body of water resources in the state for good. He says, although excessive water body has evolved into both a burden and a looming threat to lives and property, prospect for economic growth abounds where meticulous planning and strong political determination exist.
Gives you lemon, make lemonade is a proverbial phrase used to encourage optimism and a positive can-do attitude in the face of adversity or misfortune. The misfortune occasioned by excess water in Kogi State can actually become a blessing rather than a curse. Professor Salihu Musa, an environmentalist and lecturer at the Federal University Lokoja, believes the state can become more agriculturally viable if the government decides to collect the excess water and use them for irrigation and other domestic purposes. This, he said, can be achieved through dredging of the river Niger.
This flood is like a wastage because it's like we are wasting water, because this water can be harvested and used for other purposes, more beneficial purposes, okay? When the rains are down. We can use them for irrigation, we can use them for industrial purposes, we can use them even for domestic purposes. So if government is interested in doing this, they can construct buffer dams. Okay, these dams will help to collect some of the water, the excess water, so that it will reduce water that is flowing into the channel. So if we have water in these dams, areas around this dam can now be put to use agriculturally, industrially, and otherwise.
The fear of another flood in the state recently heightened after the Cameroonian government announced its plans to open up the Ladgo Dam. In Lokoja, Jonathan Omajali, NTA News.
We just spoke with Jonathan earlier, and I said we have another reporter on the standby, and let's cross over to Ado Adamu, also in Jalingo. And what are some of the findings from communities like Bele, Donga, Lau, Sarti, Mutumbiu, and Yaro in terms of their preparedness for the rains, especially the farmers who often have to contend with wastage during this flood? And you know, you're just on the course of the Ladgo Dam, and we hear that the dam is releasing water right now. What's the situation like?
Well, thank you for joining us. The situation here in Taraba State is pretty fine at the moment. The state government has taken practical steps to ensure that lives and property are safeguarded in case of any flooding. 2-3 weeks ago, there have been serious campaigns going on by the state government and critical stakeholders on the need for the farmers to be on high alert. And this is by the working well, especially flood-prone areas and streets. About six out of the local state. At the moment, the state government is quite on alert in case of.
Adamu, we seem to have issues with your audio there, but I wish to thank you so much, Jonathan Omajali and Ado Adamu. Thank you so much for your contribution to the subject matter. And while we wait to join our next set of reporters, let me say researchers show that floods remain one of the most devastating natural disasters in the world, claiming more lives and causing more property damage than most of the other natural phenomena. Riverine communities in states like Anambra and Benue have time and again been inundated as the water level rises along River Benue and River Niger, sometimes up to Bayelsa State. I now have Joy Ilea Ebu joining us from Oka, and Charles Abba is in Makodi. But as usual, ladies first. So I'll begin with you, Joy, there in Anambra State. Anambra State often suffers great damage to rice cultivation and agriculture, likely around the Ogbaru and the Anambra East-West axis. Considering that preparation is key, what are some of the top measures already in place that would ease the minds of people who are residing in Anambra State but have families there who might this flood impact? Can you hear me? To Oka, the Anambra State capital. Anambra State, no doubt, is one of the states affected by flooding every year. Of course, this is as a result of the River Niger, which when it overflows, it banks, submerges communities in flood-prone areas. Flooding has actually become a yearly occurrence in Anambra State, and some of the local governments affected include Anambra East and West, Ayamelum, Obaru, Oka North,
Ekusigo, Idemili South, and Ihiala. The worst hit is usually Anambra West and Obaru. And as these communities are situated closer to the riverbank, and with prediction every year, there are preparations that are being made by both state government and even the people to ensure that the problems that this flooding may bring is curbed. And one of it is that the state government currently has put in place measures such as clearing the IDP camps, fumigating them, and getting set to move those who may be affected by the flood to these places. Even the people, they are also prepared. Of course, they know that this flooding comes every year, and they do not wait for official announcement to take measures to curb impending flood. And one of these is ensuring that some of these communities have actually adopted special species of farm produce. For instance, there's a special type of yam that people in Anambra West and Owaru plant every year to ensure that it matures before the period that flooding comes. I think it takes about 90 days to mature, and as a result, they harvest them before flooding comes. Another thing is that these people have also taken measures with a special committee set up by the state government known as the Local Emergency Management Committee. They have the task of ensuring that people in these flood-prone areas take actions. They sensitize them to take proactive measures such as clearing their gutters and waterways, as the case may be. These people have actually taken the bull by the horn by ensuring that almost every weekend they come out in mass to ensure that their communities are kept clean. They clear the gutters and other waterways that may be clogged. And so the people, they are very much aware that flooding is something that has come to stay with them because of the peculiarity of their community.
Yeah, it has come to stay, but with mitigation efforts, I believe a solution will be found. You stand by there, John. Let me bring in Charles Abba, and we hear the Benue State government has plans to mitigate by opening up roads and drainages as precautionary measures to, to stop, reduce the impact of flash floods in Makurdi and environs. Now, Charles, do you think that is the sustainable solution to the perennial issue of flooding in Benue State and the attendant consequences? Let's get your opinion.
All right, thank you, Jume. I'm here right at the Burukun roundabout, where there is a sculpture of the symbol of Benue State, the food basket of the nation. Let me straight away tell you the three principal triggers of the perennial flooding in Benue State. They are the overflow of the river Benue, downpour, as well as activities of people, ranging from blocking of drainages and building on water channels. These are the three principal triggers of flooding in Benue State. By the prediction of the 2023 flood in the state, by the information available to me, it is to last for 60 days and to affect 18 local government areas of Benue State: Makudi, Logo, Buruku, Ukum, and others, even Agatu. By this time, the state government has prepared to shift, or rather to evacuate those that are living in flood-prone areas to the highlands. And not only the highlands, they have prepared about 66 schools, earmarked 66 schools to evacuate those that will be affected by the impending flood. 2 schools from each of the 18 local government areas. It has been estimated that 473,000 people will be affected by the impending flood. And as a result of this, the state government has earmarked the schools, and they have also taken measures by getting to work on drainages and to also ensure that people living around the River Benue should. So that is the situation here in Benue State. It's over to you, Jume.
Okay, yes, and I can see it's raining in Makurdi right now, and I believe there will be a lasting solution to these flood issues across the country so that Nigerians will not have to suffer the consequences. Thank you so much, Joy and Charles. Thank you so much for your contribution. In its commitment to deliver value and satisfaction to customers and shareholders, Boa Foods has declared dividend payment of 4.50 per share with a total value of 81 billion naira after tax. This value was driven by the positive growth recorded in the financial year ended 31st December 2022 for the second year in a row. Boa Food remains a listed company on the stock market with the highest dividend payout in Nigeria's food and fast-moving consumer goods industry. Chairman of the company, Abdul Samad Rabiu, made the declaration at the Boa Food second annual general meeting with shareholders in Abuja. Abdullahi Musa Suleja reports.
Over years, Boa Food has evolved as a leading food business with competitive consumers and products that include sugar, flour, rice and pasta. And a year after, stakeholders have smiled home profitably 6 months into the venture. The company remains focused on driving responsible stewardship with accountability for resource use, optimization and environmental protection.
By the time we are done, hopefully by the end of the year, we're probably going to be the second biggest flour and pasta mill in Nigeria. Declaration of dividend is to declare a dividend of 450 kobo per one ordinary share of 50 kobo, amounting to a total dividend of 81 billion naira.
As usual, the stakeholders showed encomiums on the chairman, describing the leadership as purposeful that is capable of meeting the growing needs of Nigerians.
I want to commend the exceptional financial performance of the company with a robust revenue of 26% up to 418 billion, which was achieved across all product segments. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for the dividend that you are giving to us.
The AGM, among others, ratified the appointment of Oluyemisi Lowo Adeshola as an independent non-executive director of the company.
The business did very well last year, and they posted over 80 billion naira profit after tax. So we are really very pleased, with the performance of the business, and we actually are going to do much better this year. And I must commend, the management for a job well done. They did very, very well.
Abdullahi Musa Suleja, NTA News.
We'll take a breather. More reports when we return. Do stay. You're welcome back. The Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, says it has commenced grid restoration nationwide, with power supply now available in the west, north central, south-south, southeast, and a large portion of the northern parts of the country. Now, this follows the total grid collapse that occurred at about 12:35 a.m. earlier today, causing a nationwide outage. After more than 421 days of consistent grid stability. In a statement, TCN says the collapse, which occurred after a fire incident on Kainji-Jeba 330 kV line 2, is being investigated with a view to forestall future occurrences and strengthen the grid. The last total system collapse recorded was on 23rd July 2022, from then to the 13th of September 2023. The system had been stable in spite of the challenges posed by zero spinning reserve and lack of adequate system control and data acquisition, essential to a strong and stable grid. Now, the later system collapse of the national electricity grid again brings to the fore the core issues of failing power infrastructure and the electricity carrying capacity of the national grid. President, Nigeria Consumer Protection Network, Kunle Olubi, joins me in the studio to give us some perspective to this issue. Kunle was a member of the National Technical Investigative Panel on Power System Collapse, System Stability and Reliability in 2013. Thanks so much for joining us on NTA Network News. It's a pleasure having you. Now, we've heard of issues like weak and old infrastructure by the transmission company of Nigeria and the unavailability of most transmission lines being adduced as reasons for the number of times the national grid collapsed in the past. Now, how can we address this issue in the immediate, knowing that we still lack spinning reserve to forestall such occurrences, and secondly, also achieve a more sustainable solution in the long run?
Well, going through your statement, statement issued by TCN, I think the statement is not supposed to even be in public space in the first place, because it's unimaginable for one to say a worker is at site and they cannot work because they didn't go to site with their working tools. These are very critical components of the grid. You talk about SCADA, which is supposed to serve as collection of data and keeping up to date with the automation of the grid. And if you don't have effective SCADA, they are even saying we don't have SCADA at all. You don't have spinning reserve. And the essence of spinning reserve is like to serve as a reserve for energy. And in the face of, in the event of system collapses, spinning reserve, the world over is supposed to provide like a backup to help restore the grid. So now, between 2013 to date, federal government have obtained not less than $8 billion in loan as investment to power sector. As far as government is concerned, every request that have been made by the operators of the grid, federal government have always been kind enough to pursue them diligently and secure such investment. So one began to wonder, what are the resources that have been injected post-privatization in the power sector, what have they been used for? Because you cannot operate a grid. I remember in 2013, we met with the then MD, I think Engineer Sambo of PACN, when he was about to be unbundled. They were talking about acquiring SCADA. There have been bidding that has been, bids that have been open for procurement for SCADA. And one began to wonder why in 21st century, there will be no SCADA and there will be no black start. Then they're talking about poor management of the frequency on the grid. These are unimaginable things. So what we have just seen now is pure inefficiency of one sector, transferring the burden to the whole nation, not even just the grid, because each time there's a total system collapses, apart from the embarrassment, it comes with a lot of economic losses to Nigerians and the end users. So it's unimaginable. And so moving forward, I think the president just needs to do a surgical cleanup of that sector.
Yes, we talk about investment and, with the Siemens deal and all that, and, get towards a smart grid. Shouldn't we at this point have a comprehensive electricity mix that incorporates all these major energy sources with all the investment that has been put into the power sector? Yeah. And one other thing, the announcement, I think, is very important, because people like us will know that there's a reason why there's no electricity in our homes, don't you think?
Well, just like I said earlier, the immediate past administration invested so much in the power sector, talking about the brownfield, talking about, just name it. Government has really been magnanimous enough to approve fund. Now, talking about the mixed grid, there are different sources of energy generation that comes within the context of the mixed grid. That is renewable energy sources, apart from the legacy generation of hydro and thermal. Now, no wise investor will want to invest in the power sector and bring to the grid, because even when you bring to the grid, we have stranded generated power that is available, that is, the load is not being picked. We have what we call load rejection. And even when you generate to the grid and evacuate it to the discos, you are not even sure of getting your money back. So if we are to advise anybody, as good as the energy mix may look like, the best thing to do is that MBED have closed the issue of providing commitment or vesting contract, because most of those people who want to generate and bring to the grid, their major concern is cost recovery, and they know that MBET will provide guarantee for them to recover. So government has stopped providing the MBET guarantee by vesting contracts. So anybody that wants to invest in the power sector, one would have expected that their investment would be to, like you have Oando, they have their gas pipeline that go to industrial areas, so that between the buyer and the seller, there'll be what we call willing buyer, willing seller, and the tariff at that rate is different, and it's quite competitive and attractive.
Exactly, Kunle, and I'm sure it is work in progress. Kunle Olibi, President, Nigeria Consumer Protection Network, thank you so much for your thoughts.
It's my pleasure, thank you.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved the appointment of Zak Aderiji as the new acting executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS. The president has directed the erstwhile chairman Mohammed Nami to proceed on 3 months pre-retirement leave as provisioned by the Public Service Rule with immediate effect, leading to his eventual retirement from service on December 8th, 2023. Zak Adedeji is appointed in acting capacity for a 90-day period before his subsequent confirmation as the substantive executive chairman of the service for a term of 4 years. A first-class graduate in accounting from the Obafemi Awolowo University, he recently served as the special advisor to the president on revenue following meritorious service as the Oyo State Commissioner for Finance and also the executive secretary and CEO of the National Sugar Development Council, NSDC. The president has also approved the appointment of Delu Bulus Yakubu as the Pioneer National Coordinator and Chief Executive Officer of the National Social Investment Programs Agency, pending Senate confirmation. The National Social Investment Programs Agency Establishment Act 2023 was signed into law on May 22, 2023. Mrs. Delu Bulus Yakubu is a recipient of a master's degree in agronomy from the State University of Biotechnology in Kharkiv, Ukraine, with over 15 years of working experience in social investment program management. President Tinubu expects the new appointee to convey the highest level of efficiency, transparency, and qualitative service delivery at NSIPA. In his determination to actualize the new renewed hope agenda of his administration, in the same vein, the president approved the appointment of Aliu Tijani Ahmed as the new Federal Commissioner and Chief Executive Officer of the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons. Aliu Tijani Ahmed holds bachelor's and master's degree in sociology and has previously served the Nasarawa State Government as the Secretary to the State Government and Commissioner of Local Government Affairs and Chieftaincy Affairs, and also Commissioner of Education. All the appointees take immediate effect. To bilateral relations ahead of the G77 plus China Leaders Summit, Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima has expressed the desire of Tinubu's administration to deepen existing bilateral relations with the Republic of Cuba. He stated this during a courtesy visit to the Vice President of Cuba, Salvador Valdez Mesa, at the Palace de Revolution in Havana. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports.
President Kashim Shettima stressed the history of relations between Nigeria, Africa, and Cuba, especially its support for Southern Africa. Reiterating the need to recommit to future relations, the Vice President rated the past relationship as an excellent one, with the need to strengthen it, especially in the areas of agriculture, science, technology, and innovation, to explore future areas. Vice President of Cuba acknowledged Nigeria's leadership role in Africa and the world, saying Cuba takes its relations with Nigeria very seriously, noting that the support to Africa in the past decades is due to the fact that Cuba considered itself as an African state.
At present, we hold specific medications that are only produced in Cuba, and this is the result of the development of our technology and our science. In every field where we have a common interest, and mostly in the field of cooperation, I would like to say that we are willing and ready to deepen our cooperation and our relations.
He expressed his country's readiness to explore new areas of collaboration with Nigeria in health, biodiversity, and agricultural sectors. Abdurrahman Jibrila, NTA News.
Time now to join Hingino in our Lagos Network Center for more on NTA Network News. Hello, Hingino.
Good news for the education sector. 75% of distress projects in beneficiary tertiary institutions of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund will be completed before the end of next year. This was made known by the Executive Secretary of TED Fund, Sonny Echono, at a two-day workshop for heads of institutions and desk officers in the Southwest. Our correspondent reports that the program, organized by TED Fund, has improving TED Fund intervention programs and processes in tertiary institutions as its theme.
Once your submission is not in line with that format,
a good avenue for TED Fund, heads of beneficiary tertiary institutions, and desk officers to discuss issues affecting their schools, as well as the fund's intervention lines.
While utilizing such intervention lines for other programs,
TED Fund has taken proactive steps to address issues related to distress projects across institutions by revisiting its audit processes and implementing a robust monitoring and evaluation policy.
For many of them, the majority of them, there are minor issues that are contractual and have to do with issues of maybe one particular element or a small, though sometimes almost insignificant, but important element that have delayed their completion. Others have to do with the performance of contractors.
The beneficiaries believe the program will improve their skills, especially conception, reconciliation, and implementation of the fund's programs and processes.
All our desk officers will be able to do the right thing, not to assess the fund at the right time and execute the program as at appropriate.
With this new policy, it gives assurance that when you assume office as a head of institution, you can actually continue what your predecessor had started.
The workshop is expected to equip heads of beneficiary tertiary institutions as well as desk officers with more knowledge about the operational guidelines of the fund, which will help to eliminate the problem of distress projects in their various institutions.
Thanks for rejoining us. After the first 100 days of Governor Babagana Umara Zulum's second term in office, state government officials are celebrating the gains of the Zulum administration. Now, in this special report, Mohammed Goni takes a look at some of the policies and programs being put in place by the governor to attain good governance in Borno State.
Governance is built by experts in administration as a process of measuring how public institutions conduct public affairs and manage public resources in a manner free of abuse and corruption with due regards to rule of law. Mindful of the significant role such institutions play in governance, Governor Zulum's administration in 100 days in his second term of office held a series of meetings with the leadership of trade unions to rub minds on challenges confronting civil servants with a view to addressing them, resulting to approval of 2 billion naira to be disbursed as interest-free loan payable in 2 years as support to meet their needs.
We have also approved for the release of 30 buses, mainly to convey civil servants to their respective places of work.
100% upward review of gratuity payment from 1.2 to 2.4 billion naira annually to clear backlog of gratuities owed civil servants over the years was witnessed, just as approval was granted to settle promotional benefits arrears.
Alhamdulillah, we are able to send about 9 items as a proposal, and then we were able to get 5 approvals.
Towards entrenching good governance at the grassroots level, as government committed to service delivery in various institutions of governance, state government in 100 days also signed into law 9 different bills passed by the state legislature. Payment of additional 1 billion naira to Monday market traders, as well as payment of scholarship allowances to 14,284 students of tertiary institutions within Nigeria and 30 students on foreign scholarship were part of the giant strides made in just 100 days in office. In Maiduguri, Mohammed Goni, NTA News.
Thank you, Mama Guni. The ancient city of Omomoso land today witnessed history as the town's 21st monarch, the Shaun of Obomoso, Oba Gandhi Afolabi Oloye Oromogege III, made his first public appearance after 7 days of seclusion. Bumi Ido reports that other traditional rites were also carried out as the people converged on the palace to have a glimpse of the monarch for the first time, following his installation on the throne.
On his arrival after the compulsory 7-day seclusion, the Shaun of Ogumosho land, Oba Olayi Oromogege III, went round the town and ended up at the palace to the admiration of the people. Prayers were held for peace to reign during his time. Oba Afolabi Olayi, in his first address to his people, enjoined them to join hands with him to move Ogumosho forward.
As they say, it is a new day in Ogumosho land.
The pre-coronation ceremony signifies the beginning of a process of the new Oba at a later date. From Ogumosho, Bumi Idowu, NTA News.
And now to the story of President Tinubu's audience with a delegation of leaders from Rivers State.
First official visit on the president since his victory at the tribunal. And these leaders across strata from Rivers State, led by their governor, were that timely. In a seeming first reaction officially, President Bola Tinubu is happy to still have the top job, as further confirmed through the pronouncement of a tribunal. And so, to justify the mandate revalidated, the president says he is ready to face the task of delivering a greater Nigeria.
We have to make what appeared difficult very easy and achieve possibilities within a very short period of time. Our people are expecting a lot from us. I'm not the president that will give excuses. I want to work hard for our nation. A nation united by a single purpose. Development. Focused. Determined. Make wealth, prosperity a target for all. We have no reasons to be poor. We don't. And I'm assuring you that we're not going to look back, but we will continue to look forward.
And to his visitors, President Tinubu acknowledges Rivers as a strategic state housing key national economic assets, calling for change of mindsets, patriotism, and commitment to national unity to allow the natural endowments work for the good of all.
Don't just come for the visit, but be committed to our spirit of oneness. I've embraced that. We need to talk to our youths. If we are going to invest in their future to bring about success, progress, and development, they need to hear from us that there is need for mindset, changes of mindset.
For the delegation, a sense of belonging as one of their sons is now the spokesperson of the president and another the minister of the Federal Capital Territory, among other appointees of the president from Rivers State. But beyond that, they appreciate the president's commitment toward the rehabilitation of the petroleum refinery, among other projects in their state.
This, indeed, is the first time since the return of democracy in 1999 that Rivers State is truly feeling the impact of the federal government. However, we humbly urge Mr. President to note that access to the refinery on the East-West Road is in most deplorable state, and we appeal to Mr. President to approve the reconstruction thereof so as to facilitate the transportation of petroleum products from the refinery.
The president, even in opposition party, won Rivers State in the 2023 presidential election and he says he will not take that for granted. From the State House, Musbau and Wahab, NTA News.
And that's the promise of Mr. President to bring everybody on board, irrelevant of party alleviation. And that's NTA Network News for tonight. Thanks so much for watching. I am Jummai Yusuf.